Imagine if your house was on fire, and someone handed you a bucket of water for a swimming pool-sized blaze. That's exactly what happened when the world's richest countries offered debt relief to the poorest nations during COVID-19. Today, we're diving into the Debt Service Suspension Initiative, or DSSI, a program that promised to be a lifeline, but critics called draining the Titanic with a bucket. Let's start with the numbers that will shock you. When COVID-19 hit in 2020, developing countries owed trillions in external debt. The G20 solution? Suspend $12.9 billion over nearly 2 years. Here's the gut punch. The DSSI covered only 1.66% of debt payments due in 2020 by all developing countries. Think about that. If you owed $100,000 on your mortgage, this would be like your bank suspending $1,660. While countries desperately needed funds for hospitals, vaccines, and economic support, they were still bleeding money to creditors. Funds that could have supported healthcare and education were constrained by debt obligations. Government debt rose from 58% to 65% of GDP in many developing economies. So why did a program designed to help the poorest countries fail so spectacularly? The total suspended was a fraction of annual debt service, a symbolic relief, not a macro solution. For finance ministers, the numbers simply didn't add up to meaningful fiscal space. That $12.9 billion could cover vaccines for X million, or hospital upgrades for Y clinics, but it was spread thin. The scale problem shows a mismatch between intention and impact. Of 73 eligible countries, only 46 actually participated in the DSSI. Why would countries facing financial catastrophe refuse free relief? The dirty secret: many shunned the DSSI, fearing it could compromise access to financial markets. It was a choice between immediate relief and future market access. Eat today, or keep your job tomorrow. Participating could trigger negative market signals: downgrades, higher interest costs, reduced capital inflows. Governments feared that even temporary relief would be priced into future borrowing costs, and private creditors largely refused to participate, undermining the program's fairness. The DSSI required official lenders to provide relief, but not private creditors, so the burden remained lopsided. Imagine being a finance minister: accept temporary relief and risk market stigma, or refuse and keep markets open. That calculus, stigma versus relief, explains much of the low take-up. The result? Patchy participation and unequal relief across similar economies. Participation paradox: good intentions, poor coordination. 46 participated out of 73 eligible. Private sector participation remained near zero. But the problems didn't stop there. Suspension and cancellation are not the same thing. Let's be crystal clear. The DSSI suspended payments, it did not cancel debt. Every dollar not paid in 2020-2021 was simply pushed into the future. Think of it as a snowball rolling downhill. Unpaid principal plus accumulated interest. Many countries that accepted the suspension now face the original debt plus accumulated interest. It's like pausing mortgage payments during unemployment. Eventually the bill returns, often larger. The design of DSSI didn't fix structural debt, just delayed it, often increasing future service costs. That delay can squeeze social spending later, the very services the relief aimed to protect. Suspension was a temporary bandage, not a cure. So what did the DSSI actually accomplish? Some funds were redirected to healthcare, social support, and pandemic response, but it was limited. Let's break down the real impact with the numbers. Here are the headline numbers. Paris Club creditors contributed $4.6 billion of the total. 46 countries participated out of 73 eligible. The money freed up did help. Vaccines, PPE, and social assistance in several countries, but it was a drop in an ocean of need. For perspective, the entire DSSI relief was smaller than some corporations' stock buybacks in the same period. Where the funds reached people, they mattered. Clinics stocked, teachers paid, benefits extended. But reach was uneven and limited in scale. In short, modest benefits, uneven distribution, and an unresolved broader problem. Which brings us to the deeper lessons: creditor coordination, stigma, and the suspension versus solution trap. The DSSI's limits reveal deeper problems with how we handle global debt crises. 1. The creditor coordination problem. Dozens of lenders make consensus almost impossible. 2. The stigma issue. Participation can lead to market penalties, discouraging take-up. 3. Suspension versus solution. pausing debt doesn't reduce principal or restructure unsustainable obligations. Possible responses include coordinated restructuring, targeted cancellation for the poorest, and enforceable comparable treatment. Enforceable frameworks that bind private creditors would reduce free rider problems. Better coordination requires political will and new mechanisms for transparency and burden sharing. As climate change and future pandemics hit, these lessons will matter even more. Automatic relief triggers tied to global emergencies could reduce stigma and delay. Transparent creditor registers would make coordination easier and deter holdouts. Targeted cancellations for highly vulnerable economies could be a necessary tool. The DSSI taught us that half measures help some, but don't solve systemic failures. Meaningful reform will take global coordination, private sector buy-in, and political courage, not symbolic buckets. The DSSI data from those 68 reporting countries tells a story of good intentions meeting harsh realities. Understanding these failures isn't just academic, it's preparation for the next crisis. What do you think? Should debt relief be automatic during global crises? How would you redesign international debt relief? If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe. Next week, how China's Belt and Road Initiative is